Warning: the radio broadcast you're about to hear was made by men and for men. It may at times seem a little rough around the edges, brash, and certainly not canonically approved by papal authority. But its content may indeed challenge you to become the man, father, husband God has called you to be. Listener discretion is advised. Welcome to another week of The Obligation. My name is Jason Murphy. So glad you are here. We have had an exciting few weeks. Chris and I, last time we saw each other, we were over at the ball field on Friday night. Man, that was a great time, right? Live broadcast, Carolina
Catholic.
Was.
Yeah, live from the Charlotte Knights Stadium over there, celebrating 50 years of the Charlotte Catholic Diocese.
Yes, I mean, it was filled with a lot of great folks, a lot of Catholics running around, a lot of nuns, priests, seminarians. We had our table decked out with rosaries, a ton of Catholics all over the diocese.
Did a live broadcast with you and our good buddy Ed Billick.
That's right. Ed and I, we cranked it out. Dr. John Aquaviva showed up at the end, and to me, it just gave me a sense of Catholic community. Just to have all that Catholicity there, rosaries, and the bishop was there.
That's right.
Monsignor Winslow was there. I had an opportunity to interview him, and also Dr. Greg Monroe from the school system, and it just made you think, like, wow, this is kind of what Catholic culture might be. To be out there and having a baseball game, having rosaries, having nuns, having priests. Just we don't see that in society. So to me, it gave me hope. Maybe one day we will have a Catholic society. Maybe here, maybe beyond the clouds, but one day we will have that.
That's right. And also noticed, speaking of the nuns, Sister Mary Lucia's got a great pitching arm. She threw out the first pitch for the game that night.
She does. Yeah. She had several weeks building up to that, working with the seminarians there out at the seminary. She had a great ball, went right over the plate.
Yeah, she launched it. I was like, wow, she needs to be pitching for the Knights.
Yeah, and then the seminarians came out.
Especially the way they played.
That's right. Yeah, they didn't. Yeah, the only couple times I've been, they haven't done too well. So hopefully that we left it in a little better place than it was before. And,
I hope so.
Left a little grace behind for the Knights. But yeah, that was a great time. The seminarians came out at the 7th inning and sang "Take Me Out to the Ball Game." With their choir director Tom Savoy, and it was beautiful, just a wonderful event throughout the night. So anyway, getting down to business here, we've got an exciting show set up. As you know, we've been doing our Instagram interview series over the past several weeks. We have interviewed some great folks telling their reversion and conversion stories. Hearing what brought them back, and many times more than not, it has been the traditional Latin Mass. We have seen that. I've many times said before, my own conversion, my reversion came back through the traditional Latin Mass, 20 plus years ago, and I'm very thankful for that. Today we have another Instagram interview, but this Instagram interview is become a friend of mine, so he's local. He goes by the Cuban American Catholic. We connected on Instagram several months ago. And he has a lot of great posts, a lot of information about the church, about the spiritual warfare going on and the attack on our faith. He is a staunch defender of Christ, the one true church, faith-based principles, family values. He has a slogan on there, non nobis domine, non nobis sed domini, lauda gloriam. Not to us, O Lord, not to us, but glory to your name. A beautiful, beautiful phrase there. And it is my great pleasure to bring on my friend, Tico Velorio. How are you today, Tico?
I'm great, Jason. How are you?
I'm good, man. I'm just so glad we finally got a chance to sit down in the studio together.
You got me in here, man.
I know, man. I kept my claws in. That's how they got me in. They just stayed after me, and you never know.
Yeah.
You might end up on this side of the mic one day. So
maybe.
So we appreciate you taking the time. So much going on, so much to cover, and as usual, I have my desk covered here, making sure we get through. Don't know if we will, but we're gonna hammer out some stuff. A lot of stuff to talk about. Again, we're coming to you from the Carolina Catholic Media Network studio on North Tryon Street. Always a great joy to be here. Chris, the producer, in here behind the glass running the show, and Mr. Brandt out there in Radio World He is a fixture around here, always making sure we're plugged in and ready. So, Tico, you and I, we're both Catholic fathers. We've met, we've attended Mass together, traditional Latin Mass together, and we've talked about many things going on in the church. Tell our listeners, a little bit about yourself, where you're from, and let us know the Cuban American Catholic Instagram page. How did that all come to be? And just kind of let's get going on that.
Well, I guess you can say I'm a revert. I was baptized a Catholic from infancy. My whole entire family basically is Catholic as far back as I can trace on both sides. My parents were Catholics by culture, I guess you can say. They weren't church-going individuals. They went a lot when I was a kid, maybe up until I was about 10. Then there was some struggles there with my parents and stuff, and they fell away from the church, and so did I. So I didn't come back to the church up until about 9 years ago. Okay. And when I came back, I was going through some pretty rough times in my life, and I had just moved to North Carolina from Florida, and went to a buddy of mine, talked to me about, listen, man, you need to go back to the church, Catholic. I was like, I don't know if I want to be a Catholic. I was too busy as a young man, just wandering and, hanging out with, Native Americans and looking into this and looking into that. And I was always curious to learn more, but I was always left with a wanting feeling, something spiritual that I was looking for, but I could never get. And so, again, I was going through a rough time, and a buddy of mine talked to me about the Latin Mass. He said, see if you can find something like that around your place. And sure enough, 5 minutes from the house at St. Dorothy's, okay, Father Bittner was still there. And it was a Wednesday, and I went, and honestly, I didn't understand anything that was going on.
Yeah.
And I felt like a fish out of water. It was definitely something that made me feel out of place. And when I was leaving, Father Bittner walked up to me after Mass and said, are you new here? I said, yeah, I am. I just moved here from Florida about a year ago. And he said, are you looking to come back to the church? And I told him I was still trying to figure it out. And he said to me, well, let me hand you something. And he walked into the sacristy and came out with a small little book that was by Peter Kreeft called Jesus Shock. And I said, thank you. And he says, I hope to see you again. I walked out and got the book, went home, put it on my shelf, didn't even read it. About a year later, I had a situation. I'm into sales. I own a farm and stuff like that. And I had sold something, and a buddy of mine had come down here from Florida, and he was supposed to take it up for me. Actually, it was I sell breeding. I breed working dogs.
Oh, wow.
And I sell dogs to Europe and different parts of the world. And, since he was a friend of mine, I trusted him with this dog that I sold to a customer down in Florida. And he had stopped at a local dog show here in North Carolina, and the puppy got out of the crate. And an older dog got a hold of the puppy and didn't kill it or anything, but hurt it. This is a dog that was already sold, and I was going through a bad time with that. And my wife and my kids had walked out. They had left that morning to go to church. But, my wife was going to a Protestant church nearby. And I said, you know what? I got this feeling, I can't even describe what it was, but it was something internal. I said, you know what? I need God. I need God. I went took a shower, and I walked out. I said, I think I'm just going to go to church and meet up with my wife. But as I got in my truck, I started driving, and I said, you know what? No, I'm not going to the church where my wife is. I'm going to go to St. Dorothy's. To this day, I can't tell you why I made that decision, but I did. Wow. I got there, and there's cars packed all the way to the sidewalk, almost to the street. And St. Dorothy's parking lot is huge. And I said, I'm not going to get down here with all these people, but I'm pulling in, I'm parking my truck, I'm getting out. And as I walk towards the door, I'm handed palm leaves. Now, this resonated with me because the last time I was handed palm leaves, I was maybe 9 or 10 years old.
Oh, wow. It's been a while.
And so when I got the palm leaves in my hands and I walked in, there was a Mass earlier. I actually got there during the Spanish Mass. And there was a Mass earlier, and I can smell the frankincense from the incense that was burned before. And So all this is kind of resonating in me, and I sit down in the pews and I listen to the crack of the pews, and I just got this overwhelming feeling that I knew God brought me there that day. Went through Mass, and everything started from that day on. So as soon as I got home, my wife was there, and she says, "Where you been?" And I said to her, I went to church. She goes, "No, you didn't. I didn't see you at church." And I said, I went to the Catholic church. She said, "What?"
Wow.
And I said, "Yeah." She was like, "Oh gosh." So she said, "Okay, how was that?" I said, It was beautiful. It was great." And now Father Bittner was no longer at St. Dorothy's. Now Father Miller that's there, Father David Miller.
Okay.
So, I know what she was thinking when she saw I was getting up every morning now and I was going to daily Mass every morning. She was thinking, well, here goes Tico, here goes my husband, again, soul searching, looking for something to do to feel, certain things going on. And and when she saw that this wasn't going away, and I started to read Peter Kreeft's book that Father Bittner had given me, and that changed everything, man.
Wow.
So from that point on, I hadn't been to the Latin Mass. I was going to a Novus Ordo Mass for about 4 years, maybe 5 years, before I finally attended another Latin Mass. And but Father Miller holds a very, very reverent and sacred form of the Novus Ordo Mass. I mean, he even does it ad orientem, holds the prayers in Latin most of the time, burns incense, the communion rails.
Yeah.
But something was still missing for me, and it wasn't until I went to St. Anne's and went to another Latin Mass, and now I actually understood what was going on compared to the first time I went, and I fell in love, and I was just trying to convince my wife, we need to go to the Latin Mass, and that took about another 2 years until finally now we go to St. Thomas Aquinas there with Father Matthew Codd, and there's no turning back. We've been there for almost a year now.
Yeah, I think there's a saying, when someone who hasn't seen the traditional Latin Mass, when they go, I guess the first time you're confused,
right?
The second time you're intrigued, and the third time you're believed.
Amen.
So, and I think that's kind of the path. A lot of folks, I think they're intimidated by it. Oh, it's in Latin, I won't understand. But that's not the point. We understand the sacrifice. So if you understand the principle of what the Mass is, you don't have to know everything that's being said.
Right.
And that's the difference between the Novus Ordo and the Latin Mass, is that the Latin Mass, the Novus Ordo will sort of want you to be engaged, and you feel like you have to cooperate, and there's more of a gathering, and there's fellowship, which, of course, none of that, in theory, is a bad thing for Catholics, but unfortunately the effect it has had during the Holy Sacrifice of the Mass has sort of diminished what the Mass is, because it kind of gets lost in all of the dialogue, in all of the action, in the music, unfortunately, and of course, the placing of the Blessed Sacrament into people's hands. We've gone over that so many times that just it takes away the sense that this is something otherworldly, this is something reserved, this is something that we are not entitled to just go and grab and go.
Right.
It's not a grab and go meal, unfortunately, and that's where a lot of Catholics go, and that's we can look at the differences, and we've talked about those so many times. But the difference between the traditional Latin Mass and the Novus Ordo, your Mass attendance. I'm taking this. This is a post you had on your Instagram. I think actually Brian Williams here, who does Trad Talk Radio, I think he had a post a while back on his liturgy guide.
Liturgy guide.
That's right. Yeah. So it came from there, and it just sort of lines them up next to each other. And it breaks them down. Mass attendance overall. Traditional Latin Mass goers, upwards of 99%. Novus Ordo communities have declined, over 65%. Belief in the real presence is pretty much universal, almost 100%, whereas it is approximately 30% of Catholics would say that they believe that it is truly, Jesus' body, blood, soul, and divinity present in the wafer. Average age, lots of young folks at the traditional Latin Mass communities, the older, the Novus Ordo communities, you see more, older folks, less kids. Priest to laity ratio is huge. 600 to 1 faithful to priest.
That's incredible.
And then in the Novus Ordo, 3,500 to 1. vocations, vocations of nuns and priests, just gone in the Novus Ordo, and seminaries overflowing and growing in the traditional Latin Mass community seminaries. And we can also sidestep off of that because the St. Joseph Seminary in Charlotte has seen great success, but a lot of that success, I would say all of that success, is because it has been founded on traditional formation and traditional liturgy, and understanding of the holy sacrifice of the Mass.
I mean, I was actually told that the guys there prefer the Latin Mass.
Yeah, I would say that's probably not uncommon there to get that sense. They've gone back to the cassocks. In more of your modern seminaries, you don't see the seminarians walking in cassocks. That's sort of their just a beginner, a primer of the life that they're going to live, and just standing out. And so they put on the black cassock, the robe, symbolizing their death to the world, and they're visible in the world. And of course, especially our priest, they need to be seen, they need to be visible, and that's why they always were. And then I guess last here on this list was baptism. Just universal practice of baptism in traditional Latin Mass communities, where we've seen a decline of 80% in the Novus Ordo. So this is just one of many different statistics and studies that have been shown, the differences there. And, there's a great series out, The Mass of the Ages. I'm sure you've seen that. Yep. They've had 2 series out, and I think they have a 3rd coming out this fall, basically just very factually, statistically showing, what has happened since Vatican II. So we have definitely covered that, over and over, and we'll continue to cover it because it's very important. Seeing these reversions, these conversions, and they're specifically, to the traditional Latin Mass. The Shia LaBeouf story is, of course, been all over social media, and that is one it brought him directly over. And I think, he mentioned that he really had to enter into the Mass to understand Padre Pio.
Mm-hmm. Anybody that watched that interview can see, and that wasn't a stunt or an act or anything, because the minute I watched that, the things that he was saying, the way he was expressing himself, it resonated with me, and I know it did with so many others who have come to the TLM, and I pray for him, honestly, because I'm pretty sure, being in the position that he's in, he's under constant attack.
Absolutely, yeah.
So God bless him. I hope he continues in that path.
Absolutely.
One thing, Jason, that I was going to mention about the average age on that post I made as far as the attendance of the traditional Latin Mass, I've literally seen at St. Thomas, from the moment we started, I don't even want to say a year ago, I'll say 6 months ago, I've seen the Mass grow almost to the point where I was just telling a fellow parishioner this past Sunday, I feel like Father Matthew needs help up there.
Yeah, he definitely needs help with communion, that's for sure.
But at so many young families, and the average age there I can see is that it's just young families,
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've been there. We've just started, going ourselves. Of course, I have a long history with the traditional Latin Mass, but my wife and my family, we've just kind of been able to start attending as often as we're able, and that was the one thing you see is just the number of kids, the number of young folks, and of course the number of communicants. Yeah. With one priest, and you have 400 people there. It takes a while, but I think that's worth the sacrifice to see the care and the dignity given to the Blessed Sacrament instead of just pulling up, anyone
that's
up
right.
into the sanctuary. I had a post the other day. It just said, "Build the rail."
Yeah.
So
I saw that. That's good.
Build the rail. Let's show it. Let's take back the sanctuary.
So many beautiful churches that they've desecrated by removing the communion rail and kneelers. It's unfortunate whenever I see a picture of some ancient church and the rails are gone.
Yeah, it just takes away that the sacredness there. Showing that there's something different there. It's just not open to anyone and everyone. And,
right.
and we know confessions. Confession's so important. But the lines in the Novus Ordo for confession are nil. Compared to the number of people standing up and just following the herd to go receive. But if you go into a traditional Latin Mass community, especially before Mass, it's all you can barely get in.
That's right.
The confession lines are always long, and I think people are aware that they need to be properly prepared to receive. So many things there, and such a blessing, and of course, the traditional Catholics, under attack. The restrictions that have come down. We've seen, increase in Arlington diocese. In Washington, I think this past weekend was their first without a church.
I saw that yesterday.
So they had to move into a gymnasium. I think they're not just going to fold up. They're not just going to go away. They're not just going to say, oh, well, we're just going to fold into the Novus Ordo parishes. It's not going to happen.
It's not going to happen.
Yeah, so I think they're going to stay and fight. I think we're coming up on our first break, talking to Tico Velorio, and we'll be right back.
Did you know that 90% of older adults wish to stay in their home as they age? Aging in place has many benefits. It tends to improve quality of life, which in return improves physical health. Also, retaining independence as we age is critically important to our mental health. Hi, my name is Meredith Dignan, and I am the president of Harmony Home Solutions and an active parishioner of St. Patrick Cathedral. We are your trusted partner for aging in place. We strive to enhance the lives of older adults and their families by providing premier aging in place and universal design lifestyle solutions that increase safety beautifully. Now is the time to get your aging in place plan in order with Harmony Home Solutions. Visit our website today at hhsclt.com. Again, that's hhsclt.com. Or give us a call at 980-220-8821. Again, that's 980-220-8821. We want to help you live an empowered and beautiful life.
Welcome back to The Obligation. My name is Jason Murphy. So glad you are joining us. We're coming back. We're sitting down today with the Cuban American Catholic, my good friend Tico Velorio. We were just talking about some of the differences between the traditional Latin Mass and the Novus Ordo. And, his path, back to faith, his reversion back to faith, which came, via the traditional Latin Mass. So, Tico, you're a father, you're a husband. It's not easy these days, is it?
It's not easy, not at all.
Yeah, a lot of temptations, a lot of struggles. I have 6. I think you have.
We've had 6. One is in heaven, but we have 5 healthy children right now. Two twin boys that are still in school, and 3 grown girls with 3 grandbabies.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Thank you.
That's beautiful. Yeah, it is. It's a daily struggle. I mean, we don't want to fret. We don't want to fear. We want to. We don't. We also have to be alert. Yeah, absolutely. We don't want to. It's a fine line there. We don't want to become obsessed and so hyper vigilant that we lose focus and we lose faith and we live in fear. But I think we need to be alert and awake to the threats to our family,
Absolutely.
Especially these days.
Absolutely, yeah. I think it can be pretty easy to fall into that category of wanting to be set, and it's so easy to make mistakes that way if we're not focused on prayer and making sure that we discern that we say the right things to our children.
Yeah.
That we're educating them, because they're always watching. Even the grown ones, they're still watching. So it's important that we don't, say things that are going to make them fall away from the faith.
That's right. Yeah, I mean, it's almost a temptation to get consumed into everything going on. I mean, there's across the spectrum, politically, religiously, secularly, it just seems like it is an upside down world with some of the things going on.
And it's us against the world, basically.
Yeah.
Because if your kids are still attending school, then there's so many things and trying to influence them away from the things that we're teaching them at home, especially when it comes to the faith. So it's a battle. It's definitely a battle.
Yeah, it definitely is. Just looking at it from a political spectrum, even our top ranks in the government are turning their backs and turning the weapons towards traditional values. even our president referring to many with conservative beliefs, traditional Judeo-Christian values as quote unquote MAGA extremists.
Yeah, I can't even believe that man.
Said
some of the things he said up there. I mean, I think that's the first time ever a U.S. president has spoken against its own citizens in such a manner.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking if you're going off of the loose stats and numbers from the most recent election, even with Joe Biden, receiving more votes, looking at the other side, and Donald Trump receiving, upwards of 70 million.
That's what I was going to say. I mean, he's literally talking to 75 million Americans and calling them all extremists.
Yeah.
It's absurd.
Yeah, for holding true to traditional values, stating we want to go backwards as this new indoctrination, this great reset, it seems, mentality to basically wash out and remove these anything that resembles traditional family values when it comes to whether it's marriage or sexuality, or prayer, practice of religion. It's kind of crazy. And I've looked at it. And I've compared and contrast what is going on to conservatives. I'm not even going to say Republicans, because I think he's catching a lot in this net that he's thrown out. Because there's a lot I think probably have voted for him in this past election that I do not believe will be voting for him in the next election, because they do adhere to traditional values.
Yes.
There's a lot of Democrats who hold those traditional values, but maybe some of the political issues, whether it's border control or economics and domestic, issues, here, whatever they may be, they still hold true to what man and what woman is, and what is right and what is wrong. And so I think he's doing himself definitely a disservice and definitely dividing this country. But I looked at a parallel and contrast the way the traditional Catholics are being portrayed. And again, just like I'm not going to call all conservatives Republicans, I'm not going to call all traditional Catholics Latin Mass attendees, because I do believe there are very numerous, very faithful Novus Ordo
I know many
Mass attendees,
yes, sir,
who just want traditional Catholicism, and they don't want this new idea, this new religion, this spirit of Vatican II, which is seeming to wipe away everything prior to the 1960s. You see especially in some of the more traditional parishes that still have communion rail, that still promote communion on the tongue. They can't, I guess, demand it, because I guess Rome is allowing it, but they promote, the reception of communion on the tongue. There's patens there under the chins of people when they receive, even when they receive in the hands, just to show that it is the body, blood, soul, and divinity of our Lord, and it should be, respected and cared for. The use of incense, the use of Gregorian chant, that is happening, and especially in our in churches of our diocese. Now, when you venture out of the city of Charlotte, in this general outlying area, it's going to get worse. And I know from experience, as I've traveled different parishes throughout the southeast per se, or even most throughout the country, that they're even suppressing in many cases these traditional elements that would be along with the the Novus Ordo traditional at Mass, just traditional Catholicism. So when I compare and contrast what's happening to conservatives, it's happening in both camps. It's happening in our political realm. It's happening in the religious realm. And what is that? What it's an attack on the marriage, attack on the family, sexuality.
Absolutely.
And you just what is going on? We know the devil is.
Well, they want us to go backwards. Yeah. You said the word earlier, and that seems to be the new word now.
Yeah.
Biden used it in that speech a few times. He used it. I think it was 2 days later that weekend, talking about going backwards. And unfortunately, our Pope says the same word.
Yes.
So, and you mentioned, what's going on in the political spectrum. I think Satan, the enemy, is using both politics and the church. I mean, it's tied to the same exact thing, and there's so many. If you compare it, there's so many things that are the same. And I think it's just a constant evil that we're looking at, and it's invaded not only our politics and our way of life, but it's also in our church.
Definitely, it definitely is. And the president's speech the other night. What in the world was that kind of? Well, I mean, someone
got the Marines behind him. It almost looked like I was looking at Stalin or Hitler back in the day.
It was intentional. Someone put that together. He obviously approved it. Right. Maybe not. I don't know. Sort of a puppet, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But it was definitely approved, and it was intentional to convey a message. And it was a threat. It was a threatening message, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I mean, the way it came across.
We're seeing so many things that take us back 50 years at least. Being Cuban American myself, my parents escaped communism from Cuba. They were exiled to this country in the 60s. And one of the things Castro did was, I think it was in 61, he removed all the tabernacles from the Catholic churches and he replaced them with TV screens.
Oh, wow.
And what he would do was he would use his propaganda, and that's what the people would come to church and look at on Sundays. Eventually, he got rid of the Catholic Church altogether for about 30 years. It wasn't until Pope John Paul II came there, I think that was in 98, I believe.
Okay.
And slowly but surely, they started bringing some of the churches back. But the damage has been done, and there's so many things we look at, like what you said with the president's speech the other night. Looking at that, I know there are so many, Cubans and Cuban Americans that saw that, and they probably got goosebumps, and not the good kind, watching that, because it took them back.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure you saw what happened in the Nicaraguan police on Friday.
Terrible.
They raided the residence of the Roman Catholic bishop, and they're suppressing there and just growing tensions there. Basically saying that he wasn't he was violating I guess tax issues or something like that, and they used that to kind of come in and suppress.
What a brave bishop, though! Did you see him out in the street holding up the Eucharist?
He did,
and talking
right
about
face.
everything that we were doing to him. I'd like to have 10 of him here in our country.
Yeah, it's going to take heroic bishops and priests. But as Fulton Sheen said, it's not going to be the priests and the bishops. It's going to be the laity, because how that's going to work, in my opinion, is that the priests and the bishop obviously are going to have to make decisions and make changes, but they're not going to do it unless we rally behind them, and they know that we have their support. So, I mean, if there's enough faithful around saying, Father so-and-so or Bishop so-and-so, we have you, we're behind you, we support this, we want this, we have to do that. We have to, as Catholics, we have to tell them.
Absolutely.
We can't sit back and just think, everything's going to work itself out. No, because it's just, unfortunately, there's politics in our church, just like there's politics in our world, and, and that dictates, a lot of fear. And it may be fear of, being removed from their office or removed from their parish. But it's going to take heroic, bishops and priests, and the faithful have to be heroic to show them, hey, this is what needs to be done.
I think it was Father John Hardin that said, ordinary Catholics will not survive this age. Only heroic Catholics will survive.
Absolutely. And so just a little bit more on this compare and contrast, and this attack on the family that is. Really the heart of it, because it starts in the domestic church. You are the priest of your domestic church at your house. I'm the priest of the domestic church in my house. And it is our duties, it is our obligations to make sure that we are forming our children, setting an example, leading our wives, in the faith, so that they can, go out and bring that light to the world. Because if we don't, the world's going to eat them up.
That's right.
If we don't raise our kids, the world will.
I mean, they're trying to eat them up and take them from underneath us. They're trying to force that to happen.
And that's a big one here. So the family. So certainly the devil wants us to. He wants to disrupt the family. He wants to disrupt our faith. But even more so, he wants to destroy us.
That's right.
Physically, spiritually, he wants to destroy our soul. So he, with this whole new, this LGBTQ trans movement is just, it's incredible what's going on with it. the indoctrination there and what's the grooming of children. I watched a series the other day, and it talks about this indoctrination and the predatory methods that those with that have transitioned, and most of the time it's the middle-aged men who've transitioned, and they're grooming these children who are perhaps depressed or questioning things in their life, probably because number one, their family is not stable.
That's right.
When it's not, when your foundation is not stable, then everything else is subject to fall. And they have these. I might have mentioned to you earlier, these sparkle families.
Yeah, you were telling me about that.
Sparkle families. So supposedly it's these groups of transitioning or transitioned men, sometimes women, that basically will provide this grooming and this smothering of love. This basically saying, "Oh, we love you, and your parents don't understand you, and they're suppressing you, but we love who you really are, and we'll protect you." And in many cases, it sounds like they're creating these causes of abuse because they're supposedly the parents are stifling their children's growth and their who they are, and so they're petitioning with authorities saying that there's abuse, and they're taking the children under their wings and grooming them towards homosexuality and transitioning. And in many cases now you have such a number of doctors and facilities that are willing to butcher children, removing
I've seen that. It's
breasts and genitalia, and this has a huge effect of depression and ultimately suicide.
Well, we haven't even seen what it's going to cause when these kids become adults.
Yeah.
I'm willing to bet that the suicide rate and depression and all those things are going to skyrocket because the decisions we make at 10 or 12, as you know, at our age, aren't the decisions that we make later on in life.
That's right.
So many regrets that we have. We look back on certain things or mistakes we made in our youth. Yeah. Can you imagine mutilating your body or having someone mutilate your body and then having a regret later on and you can't get that back?
I mean, this is starting at age 3 and 4.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And a lot of times it's not even the child who's instigating this. It's the parent who, for some sort of badge of honor, we could say, wants to prove their faithfulness to the new agenda.
Yeah.
Oh, you have a child that's transitioning, or that, and so they groom this child, and this poor child grows up and doesn't know any better, and this is basically the fulfillment of the parent.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the parent is not wanting to groom this child for heaven. It's grooming this child for earth and for destruction.
I think that a lot of this is due, and a lot of people get caught up on what happened. How did we get here? And they fail to look at, the cultural and sexual revolution in the 60s. I mean, that was the beginning of it all, in my opinion. If you compare, some of the music or some of the things that were going on back then to some of the stuff we see now, the common person who doesn't know a little bit of that history would say, well, there's no comparison. I wish we can go back to the 60s. But what they don't understand is that that's what started it all. We shouldn't be looking at, where we're at now. We need to look at how we got here.
Yeah.
And the same thing goes for the church.
Absolutely.
And so I think if people were to realize that we've been led to this point and it's been systematically, then a lot of answers will probably, a lot of things will probably be answered for them, because this problem has been coming along for the last 50 plus years.
Yeah, I agree. You can just look at it, just look at what Disney's putting out,
Unbelievable. Who would have ever thought that Disney would be putting out the stuff that they're putting out? There's a new cartoon or animation on Hulu that's made by Disney. I think it's called Little Demon or something like that.
Yeah, Little Demon. Danny DeVito.
Have you seen what that's about? It's unbelievable.
It's horrible. They think it's all funny, haha, but they're playing with the occult in that, and that just kind of brings me to some additional issues, in how mainstream it is. I mean, looking at this attack on the family, this attack on sexuality, that even our president has assigned, Rachel Levine, so the U.S. Assistant Health Secretary, who is a transvestite. and she, is in, full support and empowering of youths to get gender affirmation treatments. It's crazy. She, appearing on MSNBC's Andrea Mitchell's report, Levine, who is a transgender, discussed an opinion piece that criticized such states as Florida for enacting limits on transgender treatments for youth. She emphasized that these laws, along with significant harassment, are what contribute to mental issues among trans youth. So they're trying to paint this picture that Florida, who is trying to preserve traditional family values and say a child cannot make those decisions.
That's right.
Come on, and just calling them the enemy. And I mean I've seen this person on TV, and she is in full drag regalia. I mean, not dressed up like a drag queen, but long flowing hair and wearing a dress, but it's in fact a man. I mean, this is what we see. This is integrated into our government now. This is integrated into our entertainment. And you mentioned the demon. What is it called? The demon.
Little Demon.
Little Demon. I mean, there's even a story here just came out. So Biden's gay married monkeypox deputy. So I guess there's an actual position for a monkeypox deputy.
Well, what does that tell you?
I wasn't aware of it, but
get ready, folks.
He was accused of Satanism after wearing a pentagram on his hat for some magazine cover shot.
Well, he's actually got another picture with a pentagram on his shirt.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow. So
I mean, it can't just be that one picture.
So this is the director of monkeypox, and he also, I guess, serves as a director of the Division of HIV Prevention. I'm not sure. That sounds like it's working against each other. But if you look at what he's stacking in his cabinet, maybe not his cabinet, but in this administration, it is painting a picture of just something completely opposite to what is normal and what is right and what is biblical. Right. And it is a straight up attack. I mean, it's even hard to explain this to your kids, right? I mean, yeah. How do you even go about that? Dad, why is that man wearing a dress? I mean, I think
you're doing something right when, like, my sons were the ones that came up to me and showed me the whole Little Demon thing.
Oh yeah.
And they were like, "Can you believe this, Dad? Can you believe that this is actually a thing?" And I'm like, "I can't believe it." And he goes, I'm telling all my friends in school that they shouldn't watch this stuff. I said, well, good. That's good. You should do that. You should do that. But, if you're one of these parents that, is too busy in the kitchen cooking and doesn't have time to see what your kids are watching on TV all the time, I mean, you need to take a closer look these days, because it's not just on Hulu. It's on Netflix. It's on Disney Channel. It's everywhere,
So I think it...
And I'm sorry, Jason, but the TV rating on these things are 7, like or TV-wise 7. Right. So you would think as soon as you saw the TV rating come up, oh, this must be okay for my toddler or my 6, 7, or 8-year-old to watch. And it's not.
Well, we got rid of Disney Plus months ago, when they started coming out with, some of these, homosexual characters and things, mm-hmm. and some of the cartoons I can't even remember, and I don't even want to say it because I don't want to promote them.
Right.
But this one you're talking about, Little Demon, I mean, I watched a preview of that, and I mean, they talk about having sex with the Antichrist, the child of Satan, and selling of souls. And basically just the devil's misunderstood, but he's a nice guy. And that's all funny games, haha. But I mean, do you really joke about that? Is that really something that is worth bringing out and laughing about? And supposedly this is, so the thing with Disney Plus, I mean, we got rid of it, for a number of reasons, inclusive of, the content that was being, kind of subverted into some of these shows. But the problem with Disney Plus is, I don't think they had any ratings. Like, who you think you put on Disney Plus? Hey kids, if you find something to watch on Disney Plus, okay, you wouldn't think there'd be a problem, but unfortunately, there's a problem.
Yeah.
And something like this is already being aired on Disney Plus in Australia and New Zealand.
Wow.
It's already there, and I mean, why isn't it going to be here? It probably will be. So that's gone. I know Disney's ratings and Disney's numbers have dropped because folks are just not going to go along with that. But it's tough enough, let alone bringing it into your house. I think we're coming up on our next break. We were talking to Tico Villario, Cuban American Catholic, here on The Obligation, and we will be right back.
Hello, Carolina Catholic family. This is David Papandrea, founder and chairman of Carolina Catholic Media. Please join us during our 2022 Catch the Spirit Pledge Drive season, starting with Giving Tuesdays and culminating with our 36-hour Sacred Heart Share-a-thon. Your pledge will help us better plan and allocate resources to evangelize the truth of Jesus Christ across our 7 media platforms in the Carolinas. Every dollar raised goes back into the Carolina Catholic operating and capital expense budget to grow our apostolate. When you consider the state of the world and the extraordinary times that we're living in, with a cancel culture, unprecedented media bias, mistruths and disinformation everywhere, it's clear why Carolina Catholic Media is here. Our mission is to communicate the truth of Jesus Christ and the Catholic Church to over 5 million souls in the Diocese of Charlotte and upstate South Carolina. With that comes a commitment to create diverse local programs from our parishes, schools, and ministries. Our vision is to bring everyone together as one unified Carolina Catholic community. Carolina Catholic Media is a 501c3 nonprofit. Your financial gift is 100% tax deductible. To sponsor or donate, please email me at feedback@carolinacatholicradio.org or call me at 800-857-2909. That's 800-857-2909. We appreciate your prayerful consideration to support us during our Catch the Spirit Pledge Drive. May God bless you abundantly.
Welcome back. My name is Jason Murphy. This is The Obligation, and we are talking to Tico Valario, the Cuban-American Catholic. We have been covering a lot of ground here. We've jumped in and just, kind of compared and contrast what's going on in the world, what's going on in the church, and ultimately it boils down to an attack on the family. We're seeing these lines being drawn. We're being pegged into these roles, these extremist roles. Tico, you're an extremist, man. I'm sorry if no one's told you. You're an extremist. You're a Catholic extremist. We've had a couple on. Go ahead.
I was going to say, apparently I am, That's the way, unfortunately, we're being looked at, just because we want to hold on to our faith and be true to our religion, Catholicism.
Absolutely. And I think you're friends with the Tattooed Trad Catholic as well.
I know she was on here.
She was, yeah. We had a great time. Carolyn did a great job. And one of my favorite lines from our whole talk was I asked if she had a rosary wrapped around her AR-15, and she kind of chuckled and she said, "My rosary is my AR-15." I think I said that's a great line, and that's so true.
Yeah, I'm starting to call it now my pocket AR-15.
There you go, fully loaded, locked and loaded, man. So talking about the rosary and how important that is, and the devil hates the rosary. We know that he hates Our Lady more than anything. I think he hates that she brought our Lord into the world, and for everything she stands for against, the impurity and the family and everything that, Our Lady and St. Joseph stood for. You were recently contacted by someone in Illinois under Cardinal Cupish, I believe, mm-hmm. and it sounds like they were having some issues with just praying the rosary after Mass or something, right?
Yeah.
What was the story on that?
So basically, any type of Marian devotion is not wanted there. And I think it was you that showed me an article that came out as far as August of last year, where they were canceling
That's right.
the Marian prayers or the St. Michael after Mass.
That's right.
And so this young lady reached out to me, and she was just asking advice on what I think she should do. And what happened was, after Mass, and this is completely after Mass, after the priest is gone and everything, a few would stay afterwards and just say one Hail Mary. Mm-hmm. And the priest, and I believe he's new at that parish, but and the priest came in the next day, and during the homily, he just went off, and called them psychotic for praying the Hail Mary and not being obedient to what he's asked them to do. And there's actually a video on YouTube about it. Yeah, I thought I showed it to you. But so this is some of the things that we're looking at, and in my opinion, how do you attack, your parish and tell them they're not allowed to say a Hail Mary or Saint Michael, which has been the traditional prayers that you say right after the Mass is ended,
And this was, okay, so this was after the 6:15 a.m. Mass.
Yes.
So it wasn't like this was like the really popular, Saturday vigil
this was a
Mass.
morning Mass during the week.
6:15 in the morning. So let's visualize who's at a 6:15 a.m. Mass.
Yeah.
Certainly very faithful folks.
That's right.
Probably not too many of them, and probably not any of them who would oppose the praying of a single Hail Mary or the Rosary or a Decade or whatever, any Marian devotion. I would think that if you're there at 6:15 in the morning, you probably have a pretty strong devotion to Our Lady. I would fare to bet on that. And the other thing I think that was said by this priest was that it was a disruption to the Mass.
Yeah.
Disruption to the Mass while he was in the sacristy.
Yep.
Unvesting. So what is that about? I can't even get my head around that. But it's not surprising. It sounds far-fetched. It sounds extreme. But don't most of the headlines? Do we think we would have a assistant health secretary who dressed as a woman who was indeed a man? Like, right. What is that? I mean, we're in an upside-down world.
We're in a spiritual battle. Brother.
Absolutely. Yeah, it is dark. We're contending against powers and principalities in this present darkness. Absolutely. I think you were, this Instagram. It's you have to be careful. You have to be careful. It can be such a great vehicle and a great component to be able to reach out and evangelize. I had Alex Greco and we had Shammy on there, Shammy's Crusade. I think you follow both of them as well on Instagram. A lot of good content. But you got to be careful. It can be consuming. If it's distracting you from prayer because you want to make sure you get that latest meme out or read that latest post, it's a fine line. But when we Catholicize it and we use it, and we're not too hung up. I mean, there's definitely folks out there that I can't say for sure. I don't know what's going on the inside, but with the amount of posts and the type of post, and I mean, I'm still green, man. I'm still a green memer. It takes me a while to put together a pretty simple meme.
I don't even know how to do those memes, man.
But I know some of them are very elaborate, and even, I'm sure it takes a while.
Yeah. And
these guys are posting multiple a day. You got to think about, okay, well, how much time are you spending meming, and how much time are you spending in prayer? How much time are you spending really, reading or, spending time with your family? Like, the last thing we want to do is get caught up in that stuff where it's like, oh yeah, I'll be there for dinner, and you're late for dinner, or you're missing prayer because, you get caught up. And I'll admit, social media, it's all consuming. You get kind of there, you start scrolling, you start reading, and
it'll keep you from prayers. And a lot of time, what it also does is you get caught up in the things that you're upset about. I can't believe this is happening. I can't believe this bishop or this cardinal or the president or the pope or, that they're doing this. And then all of a sudden you start to lose, your own reverence, right? Like you're no longer praying, you're no longer, or as much, and you're no longer reading scripture, or you're now involved in what's the next headline or what's the next highlight, what's being said, what happened today. And it'll take you away from the important things, because at the end of the day, if we're going to have these profiles on social media, as you know, people reach out to us all the time asking questions, and if we're not staying prayed up, how are we supposed to answer these questions for these people?
That's right. And speaking of that, I think you had not such a good you had such not a good experience just the other day.
It was yesterday, as a matter of fact.
So this wasn't really. This was someone weren't quite sure who it might be. It seemed good intentioned, but it turned out not to be.
Yeah. So I put up a post, something relating to the LGBTQ. I think it was I don't know if you saw what's going on in Switzerland, and now they've put up these women that have been ordained supposedly, and they're doing
good try, ladies.
The liturgy. Yeah, exactly.
Keep trying.
And this woman, I won't say her name or anything like that, but she decided that she wanted to take my post and expose me on her page, and left me some nasty messages. Saying that 65 other people around the globe agreed with her. I don't know.
65?
A whole 65, But then that wasn't enough for her, and she decided to, through Instagram, video call me. So I said, you know what? Before I answered, I did a quick Hail Mary.
Good.
And I said, I'm going to try my hardest to talk to this person and let them know I'm not their enemy or anything like that, But as soon as I picked up, man, I mean, she just went off on me. She wouldn't let me say 2 words. And, there's this look in their eyes, Jason. There's this certain, I don't really know how to put my finger on it, but you can see that it's not really them. And I can almost feel like the enemy is using them.
Yeah.
And when you make posts like these, it triggers them in a way where they just can't hold back. And, posting my post for her followers to see, sending me nasty messages, it wasn't enough. She needed to call me and face me and, say all the horrible things she was trying to say, So I prayed for her, man. That's all you can do,
Absolutely, yeah. You never know. For someone to take that, I mean, she's obviously, it obviously affected her. So, you can only pray that there's maybe a conflict going on.
Yeah, I mean, that tells me I'm doing something right.
Yeah. And hopefully a conflict within her too. Maybe she's conflicted. Maybe maybe she's, because if she knew she was right, she would just ignore you and go on by. But maybe there's something in her, please God, that she needed to reach out. She needs someone to either validate or negate what she believes to be true, and that's good, because that honestly, as much as it sounds kind of psycho and kind of like a stalker there, you just can only hope for the best, that because God obviously loves all of us and wants everyone's salvation, and that she'll find that light, because there was a certain time in my life where there was not any light in my soul, but thanks be to God, I was conflicted, and I saw the truth.
Amen, brother.
So, we will certainly, pray for her soul and all those out there, and especially these days, it's so easily be misled. I think, we're coming up on our time, but, before we go, we're definitely involved in a spiritual warfare. You know that, I know that.
Yep.
Anybody practicing their faith and speaking and listening to our Lord knows that we're in the fight of our lives, and it's not going away anytime soon, and I think the measures will be escalated.
This is a time to be courageous. This is not the time to fall away from our faith. And I think that there's going to be a lot of things that are going to prompt many Catholics to say, you know what, I'm done with the church.
Yeah.
But if there's ever been a time to be a Catholic, it's right now.
Absolutely. This is the times that saints and martyrs are made. We have not resisted to blood yet.
That's right.
Although we're starting to see some, we're starting to see attacks on Christians and Catholics throughout our world, for simply their faith and their belief. So we will stand strong in the faith. Speaking, of the spiritual warfare and fellowship and brotherhood, how important it is, your relationship with me, us being able to reach out. I know it's very important for me, because I know you're out there battling. We're in the battle together. We're in the struggle. We both have, young children. And my oldest is the same age as your boys,
yes,
your twins. So so we have a lot in common there, and we're going through kind of a lot of the same things. Our boys are being exposed to a lot of the same temptations at the same time. So it is a great blessing to have you, especially coming on today and being able to sit down with you. I know we could do this. We could do this a lot more. So as long as you're comfortable, we will. I'll keep chasing after you.
Anytime, man.
but that being said, obviously on a regular basis, staying in touch, staying faithful, staying prayed up, like you said. We have the annual men's conference, and this year especially, in the midst of everything going on in the world, chasing after this, chasing after that. Our slogan for this year is going to be Qui queris? Who are you looking for? Is it Christ? Are we chasing and looking for Christ, or is there something else? Or are we being led and looking for someone else? But inclusive of our speakers on that, March 18th, 2023, it's going to be at St. Thomas Aquinas Catholic Church once again. Of course, as always, we will have Bishop Peter Jugas there, but we're going to have Charles Franny there. I think you're familiar. You've heard Charles.
Yep.
He's the author of Slaying Dragons: What Exorcists See and What We Should Know. He's a father, and he is engaged in the fight, so he knows firsthand. He's going to be there speaking to us. Deacon John Clark, I might have to get you and him in the ring together because he's a former MMA fighter.
Oh, I don't want any of that, man.
I don't know if you don't know Tico. Tico's a big guy. I can validate that sitting next to him here in his shadow here in the studio. But Deacon John Clark, he is a deacon in High Point, North Carolina. He's a former NYPD SWAT officer and a former MMA. You could look him up. I mean, he's been in some blood matches.
Yeah,
I mean,
do that.
He's got the cauliflower ear. So I stay away from those guys. I've mixed it up a little bit, but the cauliflower ear guy, I'm just going to let you do what you need to do. And it's going to be at St. Thomas Aquinas Catholic Church. That's just your neck of the woods.
That's right.
Father Codd has graciously allowed us to come back. So tickets are on sale now. You can go online, www.catholicmenofthecarolinas.org. Get those early tickets. I think if you use the promo code RADIO, save yourself $5. We appreciate everybody tuning in. Tico, just such a pleasure having you here.
Jason, I love you.
I love
Thank
you,
you
man.
for having me, brother.
Absolutely. Until next week, God bless and Esto Beer.